I sit down at my absolutely last exam of my whole high school years. I was there in front of all of my teachers staring at me and was waiting for them to hand me over a picture. I was a little bit nervous, to be really honest, because based on that picture, I should have been then talking straight for 30 minutes to 1 hour. And that picture could have literally been anything we had done throughout the whole year. Anything. And so I wait and wait. And when they actually hand me over the picture, you have no clue whatsoever what of a big smile I actually got on my face. And that was very simply because on that picture I saw a quote of a man I actually knew really well. He was a philosophist, an existentialist, Albert Camus, a man whose philosophy I think is very, very crucial for everyone wanting to live a full life, for everyone wanting to truly be themselves and do something out of their lives. Albert Camus is basically an existentialist, as I said, which means that he believes that we humans have the power to decide for our own lives. We decide our existence, and we humans are actually the only animal whose existence comes before our essence. Now, what does that mean? Following the existentialist mindset, basically all animals have their essence first. They have their programming, their instincts, whatever, their inner essence, and based on that, they create their existence. But they cannot really change their essence. Humans, on the other side, we are thrown basically into existence. We are born, and then we create our essence. We decide who we want to be, and we do that every single day through our actions, through our thoughts, through our words, and everything we do. We decide ourselves. That is existentialism, and I bet that you probably are kind of familiar with it, I guess at least. But then there is another idea of Albert Camus that I find way more interesting for you and I wanting to actually put these things into practice, wanting to actually improve our lives, be more ourselves, achieve our goals, and, have a better life. Now, that thought is that to actually become an individual, we have to start revolting. Now, what does that mean? Albert Camus basically tells us that until we never start saying no, until we always say yes, and never really set our limits, our boundaries, and define who we want to be and follow that, we will actually never be an individual. Until we always end up saying yes and accepting what other people tell us and do for us, we're basically always going to be part of the crowd, a people pleaser, a follower, never actually a real individual. To become an individual, Albert Camus says, we have to start revolting. What is a revolt? We have to start saying no. We have to set our limits. We have to care less about what other people think of us. And that is so crucial. So crucial. Because I don't know about you, but personally, every single time I followed, what someone told me to do, even though I didn't really want to, I said yes instead of no when I felt that the right answer for me was no. I always ended up regretting it, bro. Always ended up regretting it, even though I had, escaped a little, discomfort. On the other side, every single time I went through the discomfort of saying no, of setting my limits, of not following what I didn't want to follow when I felt that I didn't really want to follow it, I always felt at peace with myself. On top of that, if you want to actually achieve something worthwhile, if you want to achieve your goals, you have to, set your limits and learn to say no to things. Because if you always say yes, you won't be able to focus on the things you want to be doing. You won't be able to do the things you want to be doing. So learning to say no, learning to make waves, imagine being in a calm, sea, to swim somewhere. You have to learn to make waves. Everyone nowadays is scared of making waves. They try to even out the waves when someone around them is, a little bit more a no-sayer, not a follower, someone who, shows who they are. They try to even out the waves for them, they try to please everyone, because many of us, including me in the past, to be really honest, are really scared of other people getting upset at them, of other people thinking bad of them, of other people being upset in general. They want to please people, me included in the past. I was just like that, was scared of saying no, was scared of what other people thought of me. And so what does this existentialist mindset actually tell us? You know, for me and you living in the year 2025, not in the 20th century, wanting to actually put this into practice and wanting to become more ourselves, have a better life, and through it actually basically have a more worthwhile life, get more closer to our goals. What I personally have learned from Albert Camus and the other existentialists is that I have to first of all define my standards, who I want to be, what I want to say yes to, what I don't accept in every single field of my life, relationships, business, sports, nutrition, everything. Start defining your standards. Start defining what you are, willing to accept and what you are not willing to accept. Then it's all about revolting. It's all about saying no. You have to be listening to those limits that you feel inside are right for you. And you have to learn to say no to people, to make waves and to not care, to revolt without caring. That is it. That is all. But here I guess that you're asking yourself, okay, but how do I actually stop caring? And this is actually the most important part, because until you just tell yourself, yeah, we start saying no more often, but you never really learn how to care less, you're probably not going to say no. You're very probably going to be stuck in your yes cage. And even though you thought of the limits, the things you don't want to accept, because you care too much, you are never going to say no. And so how do we actually learn to say no? Amazing ways, by the way, bro. There are two things I've personally seen have helped me out a lot. Now, the first one is a little challenge that I'm personally doing since yesterday, and that I highly recommend you to follow, because it really helps you to be more at peace with saying no, to, say no and be comfortable with it. And that is very simple. For 2 days straight, so starting from today and going until to tomorrow, you only say no to everything. Doesn't matter what someone asks you. Do you have some minutes of time? Do you want me to help me with that? Can I ask you something? Whatever, you say no. Now, this thing might sound harsh and stupid to you, but it doesn't really have any specific goals, except of the fact that you're going to train yourself basically to say no and be comfortable in being uncomfortable. It's all about that, to be really honest. When you're able to learn to stay in uncomfortable situations in general, in relationships, while you're doing sports and whatever other thing that you want to be doing in life, and you train yourself in staying in that discomfort, and you feel that it's not even that bad at the end of the day, you're basically going to learn that, yeah, it's not that bad, and therefore you're going to be able to stay in that discomfort more often and with ease. And so by following this challenge, I'm already feeling how things that I was feeling a little bit uncomfortable saying no to, now I don't really care. I've seen that it's not that bad, I've already done it for a day straight, and it's not that bad saying no to people, and that's really helped me a lot. Now, the second thing that helped me out even more, bro, even more, this is probably the most powerful tool out there to help you care less about what other people think of you. It's very simple. It is about imagining and accepting the worst case scenario. Now, this is a tactic I learned in a book called Transurfing Reality. In that book, I learned that when I can accept the worst case scenario, then even if I fail, it won't bother me anymore. And this mindset really helped me out to say no. When you want to say no, and you imagine the worst case scenario that could ever happen, imagine being somewhere and someone asks you something and you tell them no. And you imagine the worst thing that could ever happen in that situation if you say no. If you imagine that situation and you're able to accept it, now you think to yourself, okay, even if that happens, it's not even that bad, you're 100% going to be able to say no to that person, because you basically inside of you already accepted it. It doesn't feel such of the end of the world anymore. And you know, it's going to be a little bit uncomfortable, but if you can accept the worst case scenario, you are able to do it. And now this is actually what will probably help you the next time that you're going to say no to someone. Because if you're actually here at this point of the video, you are someone who takes action. And so do this challenge for the next 2 days. Say no to everyone. And when you're going to be there the next time, saying no to someone, before you say no, I want you to do something. You know, when someone asks you and you feel a little bit uncomfortable, you're tempted to say yes. Stop and imagine the worst case scenario that could ever happen if you say no. You know, when you have that in your mind and you can accept that, you're going to be easily able to say no, because you're going to care less, because you're going to feel, well, that's not even that bad at the end of the day. And that is the key, accepting the worst case scenario. So this was how to actually be more yourself, how to actually, you know, be able to be an individual and therefore achieve your goals. Because until you're just part of the crowd, you always say yes, you're never going to do anything worthwhile. To achieve your goals, you have to a little bit detach yourself from the crowd. And to do that, you have to start saying no. You have to care less. You have to be comfortable making waves, revolting, saying no. And to do that, the two tools that helped me out the most were this 2-day challenge, which I highly recommend you to do. I know you're tempted to not do it, but do it, bro. I'm literally doing it right now. And the second thing is accepting the worst case scenario. The next time you're literally there and someone asks you something, or you really feel like you want to do something, but you're tempted to not do it because you feel like other people might think bad of you. Try this worst case scenario. Imagine the worst case scenario, accept it, and you will be able to do it 100%. Anyways, really hope this video helped you out, bro. If it did, and if you liked it, make sure to leave a like and to subscribe to not miss my future videos. If you actually have anything else you want to be discussing or you want my help with, you can check the description of this video down below, and you will find a link where you can basically book a totally free coaching call with me personally. Anyways, see you very soon, hopefully after having said many no's. Ciao.